Hello friends of human spaceflight, and welcome to another week in review as we look into the space industry and notable launch activities from around the world. Coming up, we take a look at Galactic Energy, just one of China's private space companies that at first glance appears to have a knockoff launch vehicle like SpaceX. What does China have in mind for reusability? Taking a trip back in time as Voyager 2 receives a boost to its life expectancy. Just what has JPL come up with? Virgin Orbit will either have a new lease of life or cease to exist in the next few weeks. A recent court ruling will see to that. Falcon Heavy not only provided a launch spectacle for us to marvel at, it's what they did with the fairing re-entry that has everyone talking now. We take a look under the OLM and talk about the further legal and environmental investigation challenges which could hinder the Starship development. With all this to go over, we better get cracking. Let's roll! Can you feel the energy? The galactic energy? It is coming from the Far East, to be precise from China. Galactic Energy is a private space launch company founded in 2018, one of the many Chinese private companies trying to get a slice from the growing space business cake. And they managed to launch 2 satellites to orbit with their 19-meter tall 4-stage Series 1 rocket in 2020, becoming the second orbit-capable private company in China, after iSpace. Since then, they've proved the reliability of their launch vehicle with 5 successful consecutive launches. With 3 more planned missions for Series 1, the ambition of the Galactic Energy Company is growing. They dare to think bigger. Bigger rocket, more capable, and following the trends and economical rules of the launch industry, reusable too. It's called Pallas 1. I'm sorry, there must have been a small mistake here. I mean, this. If you find it familiar, well, it is. Similar to Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy, but not the same. Pallas 1's Welkin engines are also using kerosene and LOX. Same engine on the 2 stages, 1 vacuum optimized on the 2nd stage and a 7 sea level version of the Welkin on the booster. The 2nd stage will be expanded and the 1st stage will be reusable, landing vertically using the familiar grid fins to stabilize and control its return flight from space. Pallas 1's debut is planned in 2024. The rocket will be able to put 5 tons of payload to low Earth orbit and 3 tons to Sun synchronous orbit. Pallas 2, the 3-booster configuration, stronger version of the launch vehicle, is also on the table. With the 2 side boosters, Pallas 2 will be able to bring 14 tons of payload to LEO. If Galactic Energy manages to launch Pallas 1 in 2024, it will enter the exclusive club of the partly reusable rockets founded by Falcon 9. Rocket Lab's Electron can do until then. Their Neutron is also planned to be launched in 2024. Tory Bruno's Vulcan rocket will achieve engine reusability in the same year, or a bit later. We should know and hope that soon, in 1 or 2 years, an even cooler club will have its very first member. Starship will be fully reusable. Relativity's Terran R will join the SpaceX rocket sometime after 2026. We should not forget about Stoke Space. They have a different approach, using an aerospike configuration of their engines, but also aiming to fully reuse their 2-stage vehicle. Their 2nd stage prototype is already being prepared for the first hot tests. Coming back to China, the state-owned China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, or CASC, is also turning to develop and use at least partly reusable launch vehicles. Previously, their gigantic Long March 9 3-stage rocket was fully expendable. The renewable new version will be able to put 150 tons of payload to low Earth orbit and reuse its 1st stage while doing that. The timeline of the reusable Long March 9 is not that ambitious. The planned debut flight will happen in 2035. The new space race has started a race in the rocket industry as well, and we space fans are lucky to witness this process unfolding. 1977. Can't say I remember it all that well. Radio Shack's new TRS-80 microcomputer system was on display at the Boston Computer Show. Star Wars hit cinemas with sold-out sessions around the globe, the first crewed free flight test of the Space Shuttle Enterprise, and the year of the test triggering airbags in the face of 3-year-old children. Thankfully, we've come a long way since then. Also traveling a long way since 1977 is Voyager. Well, the second one is the focus here, launched first on August 20, 1977. Voyager 1, of course, going on to launch the following month on the 5th of September. The planets well and truly aligned that year. A once in 175-year event, in fact, setting the scene for both robotic interstellar probes to fly past the two gas giants Jupiter and Saturn, and the ice giants Uranus and Neptune. Fast forward now to 2023, and Voyager 2 is cracking along at some 55,000 kilometers per hour, or 15 kilometers per second in relation to the Sun. Now over 20 billion kilometers from home, both Voyagers continue to send back incredibly valuable data. But for how much longer? NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory could very well have found a way to extend Voyager 2's life beyond 2023. With power continuing to dwindle, the answer could lie in backup power systems. With heaters and other non-essential systems powered down, scientists were still looking to conserve power, considering a shutdown of one of the 5 science instruments on board. Like Ken Mattingly trying to find a way to conserve amps to help save the Apollo 13 during re-entry, minus precious lives at stake. The team at JPL have been able to tap into reserve power systems. Voyager's electrical needs are met by 3 radioisotope thermoelectric generators with a sprinkle of plutonium-238 thrown in there. Incredibly, over the past 46 years, the electrical systems and the associated voltages have been very stable. It is the lack of variation in the voltages that have given the team the confidence to forego the usual safety margins and keep the science coming. It is hoped the mission extension could extend operations into 2026 and possibly longer, with Voyager 1 possibly set to receive the same power adjustments. Communication with these deep space travelers is predicted to cease around 2032. So we still have time to gather more valuable science data before finally saying goodbye forever. In recent episodes, we've been covering the developments around the sad demise of Virgin Orbit with its filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on April 4th. A federal bankruptcy court has given approval for plans that aim to sell off assets this month. This could, however, mean a new owner takes over or the fledgling launch provider goes bye-bye permanently. It's all set to happen quickly with non-binding expression of interest already submitted this week. By May 15th, formal bids fall due, and if there is more than one interested party, an auction will take place 3 days later. Virgin Orbit CEO Dan Hart holds to their commitment to achieve the best result for investors and creditors. Sir Richard Branson, having sunk millions of dollars into the failing company's operations since December 2022, is considered a major creditor with potential funds from the sale of assets allocated accordingly. So he stands to receive a significant financial payback if assets like the Boeing 747 aircraft are offloaded. If this happens, then it would seem the company would be dissolved. With Falcon Heavy finally launching on April 30th, it would be remiss of us not to recap some of the amazing footage captured of the event. Having covered the actual payload details last week before launch aborts foiled our plans to cover the whole launch for you. So, with all 27 Merlin 1D sea-level engines roaring to life, Falcon Heavy cleared the tower thanks to over 5 million pounds of thrust. Starship, for example, will produce some 16 million pounds of thrust, punching through max Q in no time with simply spectacular exhaust trails here. And it only got better as the density of the atmosphere began to thin, providing us with quite the light show. Just incredible raw power on display there, with the mission going on to successfully deploy all payloads. And to round out the summary of this mission, let's just take in the incredible footage here from fairing re-entry. The fastest ever at 15 times the speed of sound, and therefore the hottest dash through the atmosphere. Simply spectacular plasma trails left in its wake. Crispy indeed. Falcon Heavy is a proven vehicle, but what about the next big one of SpaceX? When can we expect to see the next flight of the Starship system? Elon gave us some hope for the next test flight to happen in about 2 months, which is a surprisingly ambitious estimation, but we all know Elon time very well. Let's check what's happened since. SpaceX already started to work on the OLM, cleaning the debris, replacing damaged rebars. There were rumors of the dented vertical tanks being replaced by horizontal ones, and about how easy it would be to fix them, considering that only the outer shell covering the insulation layer could have been damaged. The so-called doghouse at the bottom of the OLM legs is also being removed. Meanwhile, environmental groups sued the FAA about the SpaceX flight licenses at Boca Chica, demanding to conduct a full environmental impact study before the next flight would be allowed. Knowing how long it took creating the environmental assessment, we can assume that an EIS could be an even longer process. At this point in time, it's hard to tell what will be the biggest obstacle of the next Starship flight: the fixing of the ground support equipment, the launch mounts, pipes, tanks, and building new components to prevent further damages at the next launches, or the possible legal issues and studies connected to the flight license. Let's just hope both can be settled down quickly, because the world is eagerly waiting for a functional Starship launch system. Well, that's it for now. While not much in the way of launches to cover, there is always plenty of other amazing news to share with you. We look forward to bringing you the latest developments in space news next week, and some fun along the way. Thanks for watching, and remember, onwards to the future. Weren't sneaky enough, boys. Get them next time. You're the last one, complete the mission. Hello. Previously, their gigantic landing vertically using the familiar grind fins. Don't be grinding on fins. Relativity's Terran R. Terran. God, why do I always struggle with Terran? Relativity's Terran R will join the SpaceX rock. SpaceX? Relativity's Terran R. God damn it! Baran. Relativity's Terran R will join the SpaceX rocket. The